Hi guys, I'm Billy Mates and this is hashtag Let's Get Awkward. And today, since we are looking at the LGB Alliance, it is going to get very, very awkward. So I heard about them a few months ago and thought, who are they? What are they? What do they do? So let's start with who they are. The LGB Alliance stands for lesbians, gays and bisexuals. What are they? They are a self-funded organisation who depend on donations, and at the moment they don't hold charity status due to their transphobic beliefs and the petition demanding that they do not receive charity status due to their transphobic beliefs, which they argue they are not, yet they are, but not in a bad way, like a closet homophobe who says, I'm not homophobic, but... And there's that awkward silence because they don't know how to finish it without sounding like an ass. I've seen it loads of times. I once had a friend saying, I'm not racist, but... And then he spouted off some nonsense that the Tories had tried to fill his head... Well, they'd filled his head with it, but it wasn't true. Next is, what do they do? Looking on the website, it is a lot to take in. The first part says, advance the interests of LGB people, which we see is being in danger right now. We believe that the attempts to introduce confusion between biological sex and the notion of gender are harming LGB people. Now, as a trans man, going through a website is, well, it's a shit show, to be honest. With beliefs of compelling a lesbian to believe a trans woman is a woman is a sexual assault, and to protect the children and young people from unscientific gender doctrines, i.e. transgender. But I digress. On the website, it feels like a scream of "fuck you" to trans if you go on the Facebook page, it takes a different turn, claiming the transphobic headlines is disinformation and that they are not anti-trans. They have many trans supporters. And then we get to the but. And once again, it is a big but. They are challenging the extreme section of the trans rights movement who have hijacked the LGBT plus movement, who are trying to throw away the sex-based rights and protections of natal women and stop them from forcing LGB children to identify as trans. So, in other words, trans women are not women and transgender men are not men, and they cannot be gay or lesbian. And there are no trans kids, i.e. a girl believes she's a trans boy who likes girls is just a lesbian and being forced to become a boy to be more acceptable in society because being a lesbian is wrong. This isn't, by the way. And it's not Albert Nobbs either, where a woman has to pretend to be a man so no one will know she and her wife are lesbians. What's even more confusing is they actually have a pop song. And it states that very thing, that a girl who likes football does not need to be turned into a transgender boy, they just need football boots. That's not the case. It kind of leaves me asking, why are the LGB Alliance copying those who try to put that in their head about their sexuality? I mean, it's starting to feel like a Bible story I was told when I was a kid from the book of Matthew, chapter 8, verses 8, well, it's chapter 18, verses 23 to 30. But what I'm going to tell you is one I've altered for my point. So if you want to look it up, then you can go on Google or grab a Bible. I'm sure you have one in the house somewhere. I mean, I've met plenty of people who have a Bible in their homes and they have no idea how it got there. It was like I was at work placement and I saw a Bible on the bookshelf and I was like, oh, so Christian or Catholic or, Pentecostal, Methodist. And she's like, oh, not Christians. And I'm like, well, you have a Bible on your bookshelf. And she was like, I've got no idea how that got there. Someone must have given me it, but I don't know who because none of my friends are either. Oh, that was funny. But to the story. Therefore, the kingdom of God can be compared to an employer who had hate in his heart for the LGBT and wanted to protect the sanctity of marriage and decided to fire them. In the process, one of his employees was brought in who was LGBT. The employer felt strong doing in this as there was no law stopping him from doing so and started with a supervisor. But the man fell down before his master and begged him, "Please do not do this. I have a family to support and we will lose our home. We will have nowhere to go." In his crying state, the master saw upon him and was filled with shame and of his actions and love for his employer, and he released him, allowing him to keep his job, and then asked for forgiveness. But then the man left the office. He went to a fellow employee who was trans and beneath him, but was jealous that they were harder working and afraid they would take his job. He grabbed them by the throat and demanded they clean out their desk as they were fired. His fellow servant fell down before him and begged him, "Please do not do this. I have a family to support. We will lose our home and we have nowhere to go," he pleaded. But his supervisor wouldn't listen. He had him fired as there was no law to stop him from doing so. So do you see what I did? If not, then the LGB have been bullied by a coward who wants to feel big and powerful, only to go off and be a coward themselves, bullying a trans to feel big and powerful. It's a bad example, but another way I could think of is Eddie from Saturn Hill. I need more time to explain that because that'll take a lot of time. I mean, there is a video on YouTube by the Gaming Muse. If you want to have a look, it'll be in the playlist Silent Hill Symbolism under James Sunderland. But the point was that Eddie was an overweight boy being picked on by the good-looking quarterback. He finally snapped, shot him in the leg, and got scared that he was going to get arrested. So he ran to Silent Hill, where Silent Hill tried to show him that being a bully was wrong, and if he didn't sort out his feelings, he didn't speak out, and didn't seek help, then he would become a bully himself. And unfortunately, Eddie did. So the LGB are becoming the very people they're fighting against. I did reach out to the LGB Alliance and received this. "Many thanks for your message. As we are staffed by volunteers, I'm afraid we simply don't have the time or resources to engage in private discussions on the nature of our organisation. Our position on key issues is clear in our aims and mission statements, which are freely available on our website. We thank you for our interest in our organisation. Best wishes, LGB Alliance." So by the looks of it, this is an automated message, as it didn't clearly acknowledge what I was asking, which was pointing out the contradictions in their Facebook statement and their website. But guys and girls, non-binaries and unicorns, yes, I do believe in unicorns, let's look at the mission statement. And when I say mission statement, we will be looking at points 3, 5 and 7. And we will start with point 3. "We stand with lesbians in rejecting pressure to accept male sexual partners who define themselves as women on the basis of gender." This sets up the idea that, well, what they're trying to put out, because they also point out on another place in the website, that lesbians are being forced to sleep with someone they don't want to and calling it sexual assault. Trans women are women, end of it. There's no way I'm going to change my mind on the issue. But there is no way that other lesbians, specifically transgender women lesbians, are forcing themselves to sleep with them. Sex is a consensual thing, it should always stay that way, but putting the idea that a trans woman is forcing themselves onto lesbians, who are cisgender women, is a dangerous statement to make for trans women. And it could create a paranoia, a fear, a hate that will grow, and it's not going to help anyone, and it may turn violent. But I'm never going to change my view that a woman and a trans woman, they're both women to me. End of. Always have been, always will be. But if a cisgender lesbian doesn't want to sleep with a transgender woman, then be nice. Be nice about it and just say, I'm not attracted to you. I mean, there's no written law in lesbian saying you have to sleep with every woman who wants to sleep with you, because if there was, then I am possibly the loneliest person in the world because no one wants to sleep with me. And now let's move on to point 5. We accept the biological reality of two genders, female and male. Sex is not assigned for the vast majority of people. Sex is determined at conception, observed in the womb and or at birth, and recorded. We reject the co-opting of rare medical conditions that affect reproductive development or function, known as DSDs/intersex, in order to cast doubt on biological reality of sexual dimorphism, if I pronounced that right. So the first sentence really stands out. It's like watching someone shoot themselves in the foot, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and then say they never did, despite the 3 bullets in their foot and the CCTV footage showing otherwise. They do not support trans rights. Despite the fact that in the statement of the LGB Alliance UK Facebook page, it says they want to clarify that the LGB Alliance is not anti-trans group, and that we have very supportive colleagues who are trans people and who share our concerns about gender extremism. That just doesn't make sense. They've just said that they support transgenders, but there are only 2 biological sexes, and that cannot be changed. So a female cannot be a transgender male, and a male cannot be a transgender woman. They are literally contradicting each other in statements, and they don't seem to understand why we're confused and angry at the sentiment. I did notice in the website that they call transgender pseudoscience, but now they're actually rejecting conditions such as DSD/intersex, which is covered in the NHS website if you would like to have a look. And now they're just making it sound like a government conspiracy, confusing people about their gender. For what reason? I don't really know. I don't really delve into conspiracies unless it's something non-serious to make me laugh, but it does make my head hurt when you find a serious conspiracist like Alex Jones from InfoWars, who believes that the American government is putting chemicals in the water to turn everyone gay, including the frogs. And he really wants to protect those frogs. I don't know why he has a frog fetish. I would like to ask him, but I really don't want to talk to him in any way, shape or fashion, because he screams his words. I mean, literally, he just... Look him up on YouTube. It's fun to watch, but not fun to watch at the same time. Then there is point 7. We oppose the teaching in schools that everyone has an innate gender identity. This is not factual, but an unproven and unscientific belief. And wow, still no proof that they support transgender rights. Once again, how can they when they want information kept at the schools? So it's cheer up, little Jimmy, you're not born in the wrong body, you're just a bisexual with a feminine side. No. This kind of brings back to the point where people don't want LGBT in the schools, but they're turning around and goes, we want LGBT in the schools, but don't want the T in the schools. Withholding information from people, especially children, is dangerous because being a child is difficult. You're developing who you are, you're exploring your body, your identity, what you like, what you don't like, and hiding one part is dangerous. I tried to be a woman for 25 years of my life with no LGBT in school. I never heard of it properly. I had to learn from outside the school, and even then it was misinformation because I had the church telling me that it was all wrong. I would have loved to have LGBT when I was growing up in the classroom explaining it properly to me. And then now trying to hide that from kids, it's just going to make them go through what I did, which is confused, lonely, and in my case, hating myself for who I was in every way, shape or form. I know this is like a bit of a short podcast. It's only going to be around 15 minutes, but doing this is rather draining emotionally, reading this. I mean, I tried to enter this with a non-biased opinion. I could keep digging through the website, their statements, numerous articles that covered them, but after hours and hours looking, I can't find a genuine nice thing to say about them. The LGB Alliance should not now or ever have a charity status. They ignore evidence that backs up transgender/non-binary and try to deny their existence in the world. We are here and we're not going away. There was a time, and there still is in parts of the world, where LGBT is called an abomination, and that the evidence to back it up they claim is pseudoscience or a conspiracy to destroy heterosexual way of life. Governments and those who follow have attacked, raped and killed them, even and tortured them. This is indescribably horrific in all forms, and yet here we are, transgenders and non-binaries being denied by a group whose flag is basically a copyrighted version of the straight pride flag. Yes, there is, excuse me, there is a flag for that. I'm not sure why, I'm not sure how, but there is, so go figure. And they're trying to make it look like transgenders are an extreme group trying to convert people for reasons I'm still not sure of. I mean, if I was a conspiracist, I would say this was done by a homophobic collective who were trying to divide and conquer the LGBT plus community to stop us from moving forward in our pursuit for the human rights we deserve. By getting us to fight amongst ourselves, they can distract us long enough to dismantle the works the LGBT plus have fought so long to gain. I mean, look at the US. Donald Trump tweeted that transgenders were no longer welcome in the military. And with the coronavirus going about, he's telling doctors that they could just ignore, send away transgender people who want to be tested for the coronavirus. Yet, I am not a conspiracist. Though I find this group confusing, contradicting, and hateful, the LGB Alliance are spouting out the same shit that hate groups say about the entire LGBT plus community. They're calling it an abomination, a sickness that needs to be cured, we're confused. The list goes on. And yet the only difference is the flag. They wave. The LGBT plus do need their rights protected. We are all in this together. This is not a time to be divided at all. On a personal level, I do feel deeply hurt. Being trans is hard, as I feel there are times I defend who I am to people who are ignorant, they're too ignorant to listen, let alone care. Now, this group is giving them a megaphone to shout out hate, drowning me out from trying to be myself. I shouldn't have to have a PhD in sociology, psychology, biology, law, human rights, etc. to defend who I am, just to keep my human rights to live a life without fear and or harm. Like I said, I guess this episode is a real downer, so I'm sorry about that, but I will post a link on my FB page, Let's Get Awkward, because we all deserve a little bit of happiness, and sloths in a bucket is like, wow. It's like the show The Good Place, wow. You have no idea you wanted it, but you got it, and you want it. Once again, I'm going to do a shout out. If you want to learn more about transgenders and non-binaries, go to mermaidsuk.org Side note, again, we are not sponsored by them. I just love mermaids and they do great work. So thanks for listening to hashtag Let's Get Awkward. I'm Billy No Mates and I will be seeing you next week. Thank you for listening.